Reality does not exist until you decide to notice it. That sounds impossible, almost insane, but this is the shocking discovery at the heart of quantum physics. Everything you believe to be solid, fixed, permanent, your home, your future, your identity, even the world itself, is not sitting there in certainty, waiting for you to bump into it. It is hovering in potential, infinite and undefined, until your attention collapses it into form. This is not poetic metaphor. It is the conclusion of one of the most baffling experiments ever conducted, an experiment that shattered the boundary between science and mysticism. And the more deeply you grasp it, the more power you hold. Because if your observation builds reality, then you are not a passive passenger on life's roller coaster. You are the architect of the track itself. Think about your day-to-day existence. How much of your attention is spent rehearsing fear? Worrying about bills, about rejection, about health, about failure? And have you noticed how reality seems to faithfully reflect those worries? One problem solved, another emerges. One fear subsides, another takes its place. We call it bad luck, stress, the human condition. But what if it's something far stranger, far simpler? What if your attention itself is the blueprint reality follows? This is the observer effect. And once you see it clearly, once you feel it not as abstract science, but as the pulse of your own existence, you can never unsee it. It began in a laboratory, with scientists trying to answer a simple question. Are electrons particles, or are they waves? To test it, they created the now infamous double-slit experiment. Fire electrons at a wall with two slits in it, and if they behave like particles, you'd expect them to pass through one slit or the other and leave two bands on the wall behind. If they behave like waves, they'd pass through both slits at once and interfere with each other, leaving multiple bands like ripples on a pond. And what did they discover? Both. When unobserved, electrons act like waves, existing in a state of pure possibility, spread out across all options. But the moment someone observes them, they collapse into particles, choosing one position, one path, one outcome. Reality, quite literally, behaves differently depending on whether or not it is being watched. Now pause here because the implications are staggering. Reality is not fixed. It waits for the observer. It waits for you. This means that your life, the choices, the encounters, the so-called accidents, is not simply a pre-written script you are doomed to act out. It is a wave of possibilities, a field of infinite options, collapsing moment by moment in response to your attention. You are not merely experiencing reality. You are participating in its creation. And this is where the paradox deepens. Because if observation builds reality, why does it so often seem like life works against us? Why do we attract chaos, misfortune, heartbreak, fear? The answer is as simple as it is unsettling. Because our observation is unconscious. Most of us don't choose where to place our attention. We scatter it across fear, doubt, resentment, distraction. We fixate on what we don't want, and reality, ever faithful, reflects it back. The observer effect doesn't discriminate. It doesn't reward the positive and punish the negative. It mirrors what you observe. Pure, simple, and different. Ancient wisdom saw this truth long before physics stumbled upon it. The Vedic sages of India spoke of Maya, the cosmic illusion, in which reality bends to the mind of the observer. The Taoists of China whispered of Wu Wei, effortless alignment with the flow, where resistance dissolves and the field arranges itself in harmony. The Egyptian initiates trained in silence, meditation, and symbolic ritual, teaching their students to hold the image of reality steady in the heart, knowing it would echo into form. Mystics across traditions all agreed, reality is dreamlike, and the dreamer is you. What the ancients guarded in myth and symbol, science revealed in equations and experiments. And when you bridge them together, something extraordinary happens. Manifestation stops being a vague, mystical idea and becomes a law of creation. The observer effect is manifestation, stripped to its essence. Your attention is the frequency, and reality is the echo. But here's where the story twists. If this truth is so simple, so undeniable, why is it not taught in schools? Why does mainstream science treat it like a footnote, an inconvenient anomaly rather than the foundation of reality? because knowledge like this threatens control. A human being who knows they create reality through observation cannot be manipulated through fear. They cannot be trapped in systems of scarcity. They cannot be ruled by narratives of helplessness. So the truth is buried, dismissed as woo-woo, while the world teaches you to complicate life, to surrender your attention to whatever noise is loudest. And in doing so, you forget the power you were born with. But you can remember. That's what this journey is about. Not just learning the observer effect in theory, but embodying it until it transforms every corner of your life. Take relationships. Every person you encounter is both themselves and a mirror of your observation. If you expect betrayal, you will notice only the cracks, amplifying them until they break. If you observe through the lens of trust and coherence, people reflect it back, or those who cannot simply fade from your orbit. Take opportunities. When you fixate on lack, your brain literally filters out possibilities, blind to them as if they don't exist. But when your observation shifts, doors that were always there suddenly reveal themselves. Reality rearranges to reflect your new lens. Take intuition. Those moments when you just knew something before it happened, when synchronicity danced at your feet. That's the observer effect in motion. Your attention tuned to a frequency, and reality unfolded accordingly. The beauty is that none of this requires force. You don't have to fight reality. You don't have to control every outcome. You only need to observe with intention, to align your attention with coherence instead of chaos. That's the secret the mystics knew. That's the secret the physicists accidentally proved. That's the secret you can begin living now. And here's the irony. Simplicity is the hardest thing for the mind to accept. The ego craves complexity, techniques, rituals, endless steps to earn reality's favor. But the observer effect doesn't play by those rules. Reality is not waiting for you to prove yourself. It's waiting for you to observe yourself. This is why your next step isn't about doing more. It's about noticing more. Noticing where your attention has been scattered. Noticing what you've unconsciously been feeding. Noticing how the mirror of reality has been faithfully reflecting it. Because once you notice, you can shift. And when you shift, the field shifts with you. So stay with me. Because what comes next is the bridge between science and soul, between the lab and the temple. We'll explore how attention weaves reality not just in theory, but in the most practical, ordinary, breathtakingly human ways. And as we do, you'll begin to sense the truth in your bones. You are not just living in the world. You are building it with every glance. If reality responds to observation, then the natural question arises, how far does this go? Is it only electrons in a lab experiment that behave this way, or does the entire fabric of life dance to the rhythm of our attention? The answer is unsettling and exhilarating. It goes all the way. The world you see when you wake each morning is not simply out there, waiting, independent, fixed. It is a collaboration between consciousness and field. Just as the particle collapses when observed, your life collapses into form around the focus of your attention. You are both participant and creator. Scientists have struggled with this for more than a century. Niels Bohr, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, admitted that the act of observation disturbs the system, shaping the very reality under study. Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle revealed that the more precisely you try to measure one aspect of a particle, the less certain another becomes, as if the universe refuses to show itself as a static object. John Wheeler, the physicist who coined the term black hole, took it further, suggesting we live in a participatory universe, where the observer is woven into the very creation of the cosmos. And yet, outside the walls of physics departments, this truth is treated like an inconvenient rumor. We are taught that life is mechanical, random, indifferent. We are taught that consciousness is a byproduct of matter, not the other way around. We are taught that our thoughts are private, isolated, powerless, when in reality, they are frequencies broadcasting into the field, shaping the pattern of events. This disconnection is not accidental. Think of what it would mean if every human being knew, with certainty, that their observation builds reality, that their focus collapses possibility into form, that they are not pawns of fate, but architects of existence. Could they be easily controlled by fear? Could they be manipulated by scarcity? Could they be bound by narratives of helplessness? No, they would be liberated. And liberation is dangerous to systems built on dependency. So the truth is diluted, hidden behind the language of complexity, dismissed as too mystical to be real. But it never truly disappears. It resurfaces again and again, in the work of suppressed scientists, in the whispers of mystics, in the moments of synchronicity you cannot ignore. Consider Jacobo Grinberg, the Mexican neuroscientist who studied what he called the holographic field of consciousness. His experiments suggested that when two people enter deep states of coherence together, their brains begin to synchronize, even when separated by distance. Attention, it seemed, was not confined to the skull but extended into the field. His work was gaining momentum in the 1990s, until he vanished without a trace. Officially, the case remains unsolved. But those who have followed his research know what it threatened, the lie of separation. If attention connects us beyond space and time, then the illusion of isolation collapses. Or think of Michael Talbot, whose book The Holographic Universe suggested that reality itself is a vast hologram, where every part contains the whole, and consciousness projects the patterns we call life. His ideas were mocked by some, celebrated by others, but they struck a chord because they resonated with something deep inside us. The sense that we are more than meat and bone, more than chance and chaos. Even Carl Jung, working in the language of psychology rather than physics, spoke of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden order behind events. He believed that our inner states ripple outward, aligning the outer world in ways that seem impossible to explain. To Jung, the unconscious mind was not locked in our heads but woven into the fabric of reality. And if you step even further back, you see that ancient wisdom traditions were already mapping this terrain. The Upanishads of India declared, "As is your thought, so is your world." The Taoists taught that alignment with the flow brings harmony with the 10,000 things. The Egyptian mysteries trained initiates to focus on symbols and archetypes, knowing that the inner image builds the outer world. The I Ching, used for thousands of years, reflects not random fortune, but the synchronicity between the observer and the moment of observation. Science and mysticism, East and West, past and present, are converging on the same truth. Reality is participatory. It is not a stage set in stone. It is a theater, and you are both audience and playwright. But this truth requires something of you. It asks you to stop hiding behind the comfort of randomness. If reality is built by your attention, then you must take responsibility for where your attention rests. That is not easy. It is far simpler to blame fate, luck, or other people. It is far harder to admit, I am the observer, and I have been unconsciously creating this reflection. Yet responsibility is the doorway to power. The moment you accept that your attention is creative, you reclaim authorship. You stop fighting the mirror and begin adjusting the light you shine into it. And when you do, the field responds in ways that feel miraculous, though they are nothing more than the law of observation unfolding. Perhaps you've already seen glimpses of this in your own life. A thought that became reality sooner than it should have. A synchronicity so precise it felt impossible to dismiss. A moment where your attention shifted and the world shifted with it. These are not accidents. They are hints, reminders, sparks from your higher self saying, pay attention. You are more powerful than you realize. The field is alive. It listens. It mirrors. And the more coherent your observation, the clearer the reflection. This is why meditation, gratitude, and heart-based practices have such profound effects. They are not positive thinking. They are coherence training. They align your mind and heart into a single frequency, and that frequency instructs the field. The HeartMath Institute has shown that when the heart enters coherence, its electromagnetic field expands, influencing not only your body but the environment around you. Coherent attention builds coherent reality. This is where simplicity triumphs, because you don't need to master 1,000 techniques. You don't need to perform rituals at exact moon phases. You don't need to control every detail. The observer effect shows us that all of reality hinges on one thing: what you notice, what you hold, what you observe. So the real question becomes, what are you feeding with your attention? Are you collapsing fear into form, or are you collapsing possibility? Are you repeating the old movie unconsciously, or are you writing a new script consciously? The answer is already shaping your life. And if you want to change the reflection, you don't fight the mirror. You change the observer. And that is where we are headed next, into the translation of this principle into daily life. How you can train your attention, not as a chore, but as a way of living. How the observer effect is not confined to the lab, but plays out in your job, your relationships, your health, your creativity. How simple practices of observation and coherence can rewire the very fabric of your existence. Stay with me, because what's coming is the point where theory becomes transformation. You don't need to be in a laboratory to witness the observer effect. You're living inside it every moment of your life. Think of the last time you lost something important: your keys, your phone, a document on your computer. You searched everywhere, convinced it was gone. And then when you finally stopped, when your attention softened, there it was, sitting in plain sight. Did the object teleport back into existence? No. Your field of observation shifted, and suddenly your reality included the thing you were blind to. The moment you released frantic searching, you collapsed a different outcome. Or think of those times when everything seemed to go wrong at once. You wake up late, spill coffee on yourself, snap at someone you love, then miss an opportunity you had been waiting for. By the end of the day, you're muttering, "What else can go wrong?" And reality, faithful as a mirror, delivers more. Why? Because your observation, fixed on chaos, collapses chaos into form. You are not cursed. You are unconsciously participating. Now reverse it. Think of the days when you felt aligned, grounded, coherent. Someone you hadn't spoken to in years suddenly called with the exact connection you needed. The job offer arrived out of the blue. The parking spot appeared right where you pulled up. Synchronicity unfolded like choreography. You called it luck, coincidence, maybe even magic. But it was the observer effect in action. Your attention had tuned to coherence, and reality arranged itself in response. This is the secret most people never realize. You're always manifesting. The field doesn't switch on when you light a candle or write affirmations. It is listening now, it is shaping now. The question is not whether you manifest, but whether you manifest unconsciously or consciously. Unconscious observation is scattered. It bounces between fear and hope, doubt and desire, memory and projection. It collapses reality into mixed signals. Progress followed by setback, breakthrough followed by sabotage. Conscious observation, on the other hand, is coherent. It knows what it is looking at, what it is feeding, what it is choosing. And that coherence builds momentum, collapsing possibilities into a stream of synchronicities that seem to bend the odds in your favor. But here's the paradox. Conscious observation is not about force. It's not about staring at a vision board until reality bends to your will. It's about presence, about learning to notice without attachment, to observe without resistance, to hold your attention steady in the field of possibility. When you do, reality responds with the same clarity. Let me give you a tool that can make this real in your life. It begins with awareness. Start a simple synchronicity journal. Each day, write down the coincidences, the repeating numbers, the chance encounters, the little winks from the universe that most people dismiss. As you do, your attention tunes itself to recognize the patterns, and you begin collapsing more of them into your reality. The act of noticing amplifies the field. Another practice is what I call the silent observer technique. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly, watching your own thoughts without judgment. Instead of being dragged into the storyline, notice, what am I feeding right now? Where is my attention? When you do this, you create space. And in that space, you can choose. You can shift your observation from fear to possibility, from lack to coherence. Over time, this practice rewires your default lens. And then there is coherence itself, the golden key. The simplest way to train coherence is through the heart. Close your eyes, breathe slowly and deeply, and bring to mind something you genuinely appreciate. It could be a person, a place, a memory, even the breath itself. Feel it in the heart. Stay there. Within minutes, your heart and brain synchronize, your field expands, and your observation becomes a laser beam of order in the chaos of the quantum soup. In this state, what you observe collapses into reality with far greater clarity. When you practice these tools, something remarkable happens. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of chance. You begin to notice the hidden order. You realize that the people who show up, the timing of events, even the obstacles in your path, are responding to your observation. Life becomes less random, more like a dialogue with a living field. This shift changes everything. Relationships are no longer accidents of fate. They are mirrors, reflecting the state of your observation. When you approach others from fear of abandonment, you collapse drama. When you approach from inner wholeness, you collapse harmony. The same dynamic plays out in finances. When your attention is locked on scarcity, reality obliges with more lack. When you shift to abundance, not forced, not fantasized, but genuinely observed in the simple richness of breath, of opportunity, of presence, doors open where walls once stood. Even health reflects this principle. Stress, which is scattered observation trapped in survival mode, collapses dis-ease into the body. Coherence, which is observation aligned with safety and order, signals the body to repair, to regenerate, to thrive. This is why placebo works, not as a trick, but as a demonstration of the observer effect at the level of biology. The patient believes healing is possible, and the body follows that observation into form. And creativity? This is where the observer effect shines most brightly. Every artist, every inventor, every visionary knows the moment when attention locks onto a possibility that no one else can see, and reality rearranges itself around that vision. What begins as imagination collapses into invention. What begins as a song in the mind collapses into music that moves the world. Attention is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between dream and creation. This is not philosophy. This is the physics of your daily life. Every glance, every thought, every focus of attention is a vote cast into the field. And the field never fails to count. It listens. It reflects. It builds. So the question becomes urgent. What reality are you voting for? Because right now, in this moment, you are observing something. Maybe it's possibility, maybe it's fear. Maybe it's gratitude, maybe it's doubt. And whatever it is, the field is responding. Your life is not waiting until tomorrow to listen. It is listening now. And when you realize this, when you stop waiting for external proof and start living as if the field is alive, everything accelerates. Synchronicities multiply. Resistance dissolves. You begin to notice that reality is not outside you. It is with you through you of you. This is why mystics spoke of awakening. Not waking up from sleep, but waking up from unconscious observation, from the trance of believing reality is fixed and you are powerless. To awaken is to see the mirror for what it is, and to choose what you project into it. And the most astonishing part is that you don't need to wait years to see the shift. Even now, as you listen, your observation is changing. The simple act of hearing these words plants a new seed in your attention. And as you water it with awareness, your reality will begin to reflect it. Perhaps in small ways at first, a coincidence, a burst of clarity, a sense of peace where there was once tension. And then over time in larger ways, new paths opening, old patterns dissolving, a life that feels more like something you're building than something you're enduring. Because the truth has always been waiting, patient and persistent. You are the observer, and your attention builds reality. And as we move into the final step of this journey, we will bring it all together. The science, the mysticism, the practices, the transformations, all converging into one identity shift. From victim to creator, from character to architect, from lost dreamer to conscious navigator of the field. Stay with me, because the ending is not an ending at all. It is an activation. You've now glimpsed the secret hidden in plain sight. The world is not fixed, not final, not separate. It is responsive, participatory, alive. It listens for your observation, and in that listening it becomes. The observer effect is not confined to the lab. It is the pulse of your daily life, the architecture of your relationships, the rhythm of your health, the script of your future. And the one writing it is you. This is where knowledge must become embodiment. It is not enough to nod at the theory or marvel at the synchronicities. The observer effect is an invitation. It asks you, will you continue to scatter your attention into chaos, or will you step into coherence? Will you remain a passive character, or will you claim your role as architect? This is not about control. Control is an illusion, a game the mind plays to feel safe. The observer effect is about alignment. It is about choosing what you will feed with your attention, holding it with presence, and letting the field respond. It is about becoming the silent observer, calm, steady, aware, who collapses reality not from desperation but from coherence. Imagine living from this place. You wake in the morning, and before your mind races into yesterday's problems, you pause. You breathe. You choose. You place your observation on gratitude, on possibility, on the coherence of your heart. And as the day unfolds, reality echoes that choice. Conversations flow with more harmony. Opportunities appear where none seemed possible. Even challenges arrive as teachers rather than punishments. The same world, but a different lens. Relationships transform. Instead of clinging in fear or projecting old wounds, you observe from wholeness. And people reflect it. Some rise to meet you at this new frequency, others fall away. But in either case, the mirror is clear. You no longer collapse chaos unconsciously. You collapse coherence by choice. Finances shift. Instead of rehearsing lack, you observe abundance, not fantasy riches, but the genuine awareness of opportunity, flow, possibility. And from that observation, reality mirrors opportunities, synchronicities, pathways to wealth that were always hidden in the fog of fear. Your health responds. Instead of holding stress, you observe coherence. Instead of rehearsing disease, you observe vitality. And your body, faithful as the field itself, reorganizes around the image. This is not magic. This is biology responding to observation, just as the particle responds in the double-slit experiment. And creativity flourishes. You stop waiting for permission, for proof, for perfect timing. You observe your vision, your song, your idea, and reality bends to accommodate it. This is how every invention, every work of art, every movement that ever changed the world was born. Someone dared to observe a possibility no one else could see. This is your birthright. This is who you are beneath the trance of helplessness. A conscious architect, a navigator of the field, a dreamer who builds with observation. And yet, the choice remains yours. No one can do it for you. The field is not asking you to be perfect, only present. It is not asking you to control outcomes, only to choose your observation. Because the moment you do, reality shifts. So let me ask you one final time. What are you observing right now? Are you feeding fear, or are you feeding possibility? Are you collapsing the old story, or are you writing the new? Because whichever you choose, the field will obey. It always has, and it always will. This is the adventure waiting for you, and it begins not tomorrow, not when you've mastered meditation or memorized equations. It begins here in this breath, in this glance, in this choice of observation. If this journey has lit something in you, if you feel the truth vibrating in your bones, then stay with us. This channel is a space where science and mysticism converge, where hidden truths are revealed, where you are reminded again and again of who you really are. Subscribe not just to a channel, but to a practice of remembering. Because every video here is designed to deepen your observation, to tune your attention, to expand your coherence, until you are living as the creator you were always meant to be. And if the observer effect has opened your eyes tonight, the next step is waiting. Watch our next exploration, where we dive into the art of letting go of the old self. Because once you see how observation builds reality, the natural next step is to release the lens you no longer want to collapse, the outdated version of you, the old story, the identity built on unconscious observation. That video is not just information, it is initiation. Remember this as we close. The universe is not out there. It is here with you of you. The field is alive, listening, ready. And the one who decides what collapses into being is the one who observes. And that observer is you.